Whoever can shut down the system, do it now. Otherwise, prepare for disaster. The shout cut through the chaos in the Northgate station control room, where alarm lights flashed crimson across every console. Train 47 and Express 9 were barreling toward each other on the same track due to a bizarre system glitch, one no one could explain. In the eye of that storm stood Aaron Hughes, a suspended maintenance intern. Technically, he wasn't even supposed to be there, but clutched in his trembling hands was the only access log, one that revealed a buried line of code, malicious and intentional. Someone had installed malware into the signaling system. Everyone else in the room was frozen, arguing, panicking, but Aaron, he knew exactly what that code meant. He had just 60 seconds before thousands of lives would be lost. He dove toward the emergency terminal. His fingers flew over the keyboard, overriding safety protocols. Faces turned to him, some shouting, some trying to stop him, but Aaron didn't flinch. Because this wasn't about protocol anymore. It was about saving lives. Northgate Central Station, Chicago. Nearly 100,000 commuters passed through its gates each day, and more than 60 trains wove through one of the most complex rail systems in the Midwest. On the digital map, it looked like a giant breathing spiderweb, alive, tangled, and always just one glitch away from collapse. Amid the sliding doors, blaring announcements, and hurried footsteps, no one paid attention to the skinny young man walking down the basement corridor. He wore a faded reflective vest and pushed an old chipped toolbox cart. The name on his plastic badge was nearly rubbed off, but if anyone had bothered to look closely, they would have read two faint words: Aaron Hughes. Aaron was a signal intern, the lowest rung on the railroad's technical ladder. No one asked for his opinion. No one trusted him with real tasks. He was assigned to check relay boxes, lubricate sensor heads, and send maintenance emails no one read. Even the coffee machine in the engineer lounge had a sign, "Not for interns." But what they didn't know was that Aaron had once built an open-source monitoring platform, later adopted by a private transport firm's cloud compliance team. Back in his third year of systems engineering, he had presented on serverless architectures and AI-powered CRM failover models at a student conference in Denver. But that was before everything changed. His father died suddenly. His mother fell ill. He dropped out and took the first job that paid weekly. Northgate had been the only place that didn't ask about his GPA or his degree. They handed him a name badge labeled Intern and a patrol key. No one wondered how a young man could memorize the station's electrical layout down to every bolt. No one knew he downloaded the system reports nightly and read every log entry like a ritual no one paid him to perform. That winter, Chicago froze solid. Frost clung to the station's glass roof. Aaron huddled in the signal room B6, the lowest level of the technical wing, where the fluorescent lights buzzed a constant electric drone. On the desk was his battered personal laptop, black and white terminal open. The screen scrolled with winter wind-like speed. Cron task failed, delay in response time, unknown override access. He frowned. A piece of code had just executed, one that wasn't part of the SaaS automation schedule controlling the intelligent signal system. In plain terms, someone had remotely tampered with the network. An API had been injected to lock down the CRM's response authority during peak hour traffic. And the injection had happened only minutes ago. Aaron opened the trace logs and cross-checked them with access signals from the admin floor above, where the operations board had its offices. No valid logs, no digital signature, but the command had run. He knew what that meant. If the rogue code stayed active, it would scramble train assignments, forcing high-priority trains onto the same track, desynchronizing signals. In just 47 minutes, a federal high-speed train from St. Louis would enter the station at 148 miles per hour. If the system didn't recover, if the signals failed, another northbound train would be misrouted onto the same main track, a head-on collision. Instead of reporting it to management as the rules dictated, Aaron did the opposite. He opened the internal interface and activated a backup simulation environment he had secretly installed 3 weeks earlier. A sandboxed signal mirroring system completely independent. It had never been officially approved. No one knew he had deployed it to an auxiliary node on the East Cluster, using old technician credentials assumed to be deactivated. He unlocked the interface, typed the final command, and hit Enter. Within 3 minutes, the rogue navigation commands were nullified. Signal control reverted to manual override. Alerts lit up along line 4. An engineer upstairs jumped from his chair, shouting, "Who just overrode the system?" The disruption stabilized. One train delayed 3 minutes, but the high-speed train was rerouted away from track 7, just in time. Only those who read the logs would understand what had truly happened. In the tech subfloor, Aaron sat frozen, sweat on his brow. He didn't know if what he had done would get him fired, but he knew one thing for certain. He had just saved hundreds of lives and the integrity of the network. And this was only the beginning. That noon, thick snow blanketed the station roof. Condensation fogged up the glass walls as travelers crowded the central hall, unaware they had narrowly escaped what could have been the worst rail disaster in state history just hours earlier. Up on the 3rd floor, inside the emergency coordination room, the air was as heavy as smoke. The large display showed signal routes had stabilized, but none of the engineers or executives were celebrating. They didn't know why it worked. None of them had authorized a reset. No one had access to the backup system except someone who had used an unpublished internal override. One name flashed across the final system log: Hughes A. Intern ID 0471. Aaron sat in the HR holding room, palms cold on his knees. Across from him was Mr. Rollins, head of operations technology, known for his severity, a man who'd once overseen the implementation of the new AI-powered CRM system. Beside him sat an internal investigator, a woman with tightly bound blonde hair and an expression like ice. She read from the security report in a monotone voice. "Do you understand that bypassing system access protocols is a direct violation of CRM operational policy?" Aaron nodded, but his voice was calm. "I do. But if I hadn't acted, the warning signal on line 4 wouldn't have activated in time." Mr. Rollins leaned forward on the table. "You claim you identified an anomaly in the SaaS automation platform we license from a strategic partner. But who exactly are you to make that assessment?" "I used to build data flow controllers for similar systems during my internship at Viridian Tech. The override pattern matched how rogue webhooks are injected into passenger analytics bots. I can't be sure, but I believe someone deliberately exploited an automation routine to implant a signal lockdown." The room fell silent. A tech intern, no college degree, no formal security clearance, was speaking like a seasoned systems architect. The investigator continued. "Then why didn't you report it through the chain of command? Why activate an unauthorized subsystem?" "I submitted 3 proposals to develop a sandboxed signal simulation, an independent module for emergency shutoff. All 3 were rejected for being beyond intern scope. I had 2 choices: follow protocol and let a crash happen, or try to stop it." Mr. Rollins shot up from his chair. "Stop it? What do you think this is, a movie? Do you have any idea who has the authority to deploy technical systems here? Licensed contractors with insurance, compliance audits, and industrial credit clearance? You're a part-time, unpaid intern with 0 credit and no authorization." Aaron held his gaze. For the first time in months, he didn't lower his eyes. "Yes, sir, but I saw a system in distress." Shoulder. She was the legal representative from the station's SaaS vendor, the company providing the integrated CRM. Her name was Lena Morse, and she wasn't here to offer thanks. She was here to inform them that the station may have violated its usage agreement by breaching secured layers of the outsourced system. She looked at Aaron, eyes scanning him from head to toe. The individual responsible, according to system logs, is you. Are you aware that under audit, this can be categorized as internal intrusion? Aaron remained silent. No anger, no excuses. He simply placed his hands on the table and said, "If you're serious about filing charges, check the API injection logs at 3:21 a.m. That access token wasn't mine. It uses a forged credential marker inserted through the passenger analytics module, and I suspect whoever deployed that code was attempting to temporarily lock line 4, where, if I'm not mistaken, your CRM was test running an automatic passenger tax optimization model today. That demo was scheduled on that exact route, wasn't it?" Lena froze, just for a heartbeat. Her eyes shifted, subtly, barely perceptibly, but Aaron saw it. He had struck a nerve. This wasn't just a technical error anymore. It was a cover-up, a conspiracy. Aaron was suspended that same afternoon. No formal write-up, no thanks. Just a single sentence from HR. You'll receive an email with the results of the investigation within 14 days. Until then, you are not to access any systems, documentation, or servers related to operations. He nodded without protest. Leaving the station in his worn-out uniform, Aaron passed the long line of passengers standing in the snow. None of them knew the young man walking past had quietly saved them just 10 hours earlier. His apartment sat on the 4th floor of an old walk-up. The window was fogged with moisture. Aaron opened his battered laptop. This wasn't about a job anymore. It was responsibility. He launched an archived instance of an old CRM module he'd once tested back when he worked at Viridian Tech. A small interface blinked to life. Log sample analysis mode. Aaron typed into the search bar, scheduler ID root 4_TXOPT. A line of code appeared. It was a tracking entry from line 4. The route currently used by the CRM vendor to trial their passenger tax optimization model. The software analyzed user behavior based on drop-off stations, predicted routes, and travel time, all to calculate personalized passenger tax rates. Aaron scrolled down. His eyes locked onto a code snippet. Route 4 recovery trigger .3 coded by L. Gallagher, PRV. He remembered that name, Lawrence Gallagher. The CRM solution consultant leading the vendor's deployment, the same man who had presented the SaaS automation demo to the engineering team last month, and the same man who had dismissed Aaron's independent sandbox proposal, claiming, "You don't understand the operational logic of financial signal chains." Aaron kept digging, and then he found it, a hidden command log outside the scope of normal access. It recorded activity between 3:17 and 3:22 a.m., exactly when the system malfunction had occurred. The command read, "Session override by admin_CRM opaque, emergency elix OFF, tax_analytics, simulate 70% decrease business line 4. He sat still. A sudden drop in passenger tax on line 4, if left unchecked, would fabricate a false profit margin. Each ticket would be marked under a temporary tax optimization category in the experimental results. And if the entire system was locked at just the right moment, as it had been, no one could review or challenge it. When the report reached headquarters, line 4 would appear as the most cost-effective route, with the highest profit ratio. That data could be used to pitch new investors, expand the vendor's business credit line with the Federal Transit Alliance. A digital fraud, not in spreadsheets, but embedded in source code, a new kind of crime. Aaron quietly exported the log into an encrypted file and sent it to a temporary inbox he had created back in college, where he'd once stored unpublished research code. Then he composed a message and attached the evidence. He sent it to only one person, Elaine, the night supervisor in the signal room, the only one who had ever truly listened to him. Hours later, she replied, "I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I've seen them trial that tax system on 3 other lines every time there was a minor error, but none of them were reported." She added one more line. "Tomorrow morning, the CRM company's director is coming for a live audit and to present test results. If you have proof, give it to them. I'll arrange for you to be in the room, but you'll only get one shot." Aaron sat staring at the screen, exhaling softly. Not from fear, but because for the first time after years of being dismissed, someone believed him. Just one person, and that was enough. What he didn't know was that at that exact moment on the top floor of the station, Lawrence Gallagher had just received a report. Someone had traced the test code injection, and for the first time in months of system manipulation, a chill crawled down his spine. Because the name on the trace log read, Hughes A. Him again. Early morning. The station operated as if nothing had ever gone wrong. Trains continued to run, internal bulletins reported stable performance, but on the 8th floor, in a special conference room reserved for auditors and the engineering board, a reckoning was underway. Aaron Hughes stepped inside, not in his old uniform, but in a simple button-down and light gray jacket, a laptop in hand. No one offered him a seat. No one greeted him. He stood tall, facing the very people who had once considered him a redundant cog in the machine. At the center sat Mr. Sebastian Tran, head of the Federal Independent Audit Task Force. Beside him were the CEO of the AI-powered CRM platform and the lead representative of the SaaS automation firm. The companies responsible for the smart routing system, now under suspicion. Mr. Rollins, head of engineering, glanced at Aaron with a wary expression. And in the far corner sat Lawrence Gallagher, the man who had dismissed every sandbox proposal Aaron had ever made, his fingers tapping softly on the table. Aaron placed his laptop on the control desk and spoke with a clear, steady voice. I'd like to present evidence that the CRM system was tampered with using an override script, altering Line 4's performance data. This didn't just distort internal reports, it was used to support a proposal for an expanded business credit line based on manipulated analytics. Gallagher let out a faint scoff. A suspended intern with no credentials accused of unauthorized access, now standing here accusing us of fraud? Aaron didn't look at him. He continued calmly. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm presenting data. The backup sandbox I built during my internship recorded periodic log snapshots. In one entry, the internal user lgallagher.priv triggered an override at 3:21 a.m., disabled logging and simulated tax optimization with a 70% cost reduction for Line 4. That data was then merged into the official report. An auditor blinked in surprise. 70% reduction? Aaron nodded. If that model had run for a full month, Line 4 would show an artificial spike in profitability. That could justify capital expansion or new funding requests, but it's an illusion. In reality, Line 4 has high signal consumption and dual direction load. It bleeds operational cost. Silence fell across the room. All eyes turned to Mr. Sebastian, arms crossed, eyes narrowed in thought. Can you prove that access was real? He asked. Aaron reopened the sandbox log. Every command appeared with a precise timestamp, synchronized with the national server network immune to local manipulation. One line appeared. User override access. Admin SRM_CRM internal 32117. Gallagher spoke suddenly, his voice low. I was following instructions. The room froze. All eyes shifted to the CRM's CFO, Ms. Levin. She flinched, blinking rapidly, but she said nothing, just the leather strap of her bag. Sebastian remained composed. Effective immediately, all CRM team admin access is suspended. All log files from the past 30 days will be cross-examined. Mr. Hughes, from this point on, you'll serve as temporary technical advisor to the audit task force. If your findings are verified, you'll be integrated into the federal investigative team. Aaron looked at him for the first time without feeling small. He turned to Gallagher. You once told me my sandbox project was trash. Gallagher said nothing. Aaron smiled faintly. Well, that trash just saved Line 4, and it saved this station's reputation from a financial scandal. A young engineer in the back nodded slowly. Then another, and another. No applause, just the silent look of professionals acknowledging a peer, not a mere intern. Mr. Rollins, the loudest of Aaron's critics, said nothing. He stared at the screen where the final log message still glowed. Root access granted. Simulation shut down. Logs preserved. Sebastian approached Aaron, voice low. You did what most adults in this room wouldn't dare. Speak the truth when no one wanted to hear it. Aaron didn't respond. In his mind, he saw the dim light of the signal room, the smell of machine oil, and the proposal papers that had once been torn and dismissed. When he left the room, Ms. Elaine, the night supervisor, was waiting outside. She didn't speak. She just nodded. The kind of nod a mother gives when her child does the right thing, even though no one ever taught him how. Inside Aaron's coat pocket was the original hand-drawn schematic of the sandbox system, folded, creased, nearly falling apart. He hadn't planned to keep it, but now it stood as proof of one thing. Justice sometimes begins with messy sketches people once called worthless. A month after the hearing, the Federal Task Force's temporary office stood behind Northgate Station, a plain, white-painted container, soundproofed walls, a coffee machine that whirred all day long. Nothing fancy, nothing polished. But inside, it was the place where digital justice was quietly being rewritten. Aaron Hughes sat in the middle of the room, surrounded by 3 computer monitors and a stack of notes scribbled in hasty handwriting. His name now appeared on the roster of independent advisors assigned to investigate SaaS automation systems and irregular log entries across coordination hubs. On his first official day, he was tasked with reviewing the sandbox system at another station that had recently suffered a minor incident. No one rushed him. No one doubted him. And most importantly, no one dismissed his suggestions anymore. As he drafted his report, an email from Mr. Sebastian arrived. Subject line, update. There was a sentence that made Aaron reread it 3 times. We are discussing a pilot training program for young signal engineers using your sandbox system as the core case study. If you agree, it will be featured in a government-sponsored online learning platform. Aaron sat motionless. For years, he had studied things no one taught. He had self-learned in silence, written scripts by trial and error, combed through logs no one cared to read. And now those very efforts would become curriculum for others, for people like him, overlooked, underestimated, but capable. That afternoon, Ms. Elaine stopped by. She brought a small paper bag. Inside was Aaron's old name tag, still marked with silver paint, but with something new scrawled across it in white correction pen. Aaron Hughes, the one who never backed down. He smiled, not out of sentiment, but because it felt right. For the first time, he didn't feel like he was in the wrong place. 1 week later, Aaron was invited to present the sandbox system at the annual conference on railway operations tech. The hall wasn't large, about 40 people, but in the front row sat delegates from 7 major transit companies and a panel of policy consultants on tax optimization in transport. Transparency doesn't start with financial reports, Aaron said, eyes steady. It starts with how we monitor the data before it's reported. CRM systems, without independent checks by engineers, can easily become tools for legitimizing what's wrong. Someone from the audience raised a question. Do you think young engineers can keep up with such technology, even without formal training? Aaron nodded. If they're trusted, if they're given tools. A clean logging environment, a support system like ChatGPT for productivity, and most importantly, the right to speak up when something doesn't feel right. The talk ended in a warm round of applause. No standing ovation, no fanfare, but everyone listened. Back in his office, Aaron opened a personal blog. He named it The Anonymous Logbook.
When you really used Impactors lied, 3M's to be digital real estate.
Piece of cyberspace that didn't generate revenue, but preserved real value. Aaron started receiving messages from engineers in other states.
Hey, I used to intern too. Got ignored all the time. Your post made me give it one more try.
Your sandbox guide helped us catch a data overwrite error in the Western Station. Thank you. And one message made him pause for a long moment. My son dropped out of school because he felt invisible. He just re-enrolled in signal engineering. He said he saw himself in your story. One spring evening, Aaron sat alone in his room. The light was dim, but his desk was tidy, and on it sat a newly engraved nameplate from the Department of Transportation. He picked up his old badge, turned it over, and scribbled with a pencil. I used to be invisible, but no system runs right when it ignores people like me. No one saw it, but maybe that was how he marked his place in the world. In an age where data is treated like gold, the guardians of truth are often the ones no one notices. And sometimes it's they who become the last anchor between integrity and automation.